betrayal, manipulation, and forgiveness. The cycle that destroyed me for years? How many times did you forgive, thinking it was love, when in reality, you were just feeding a cycle of destruction? In this video, I'm going to open my heart and share how forgiveness became an emotional prison in the hands of a narcissist. Stay until the end, because this story might be yours too. It might be your cry for freedom. My name is Letícia. I was 26 years old when I met the man who would completely change my life. We met at a church conference in Atlanta, USA. He was charismatic, full of sweet words, always surrounded by people. He seemed like a natural leader, a man of God. He spoke eloquently, quoted Bible verses as if every word came from the mouth of an angel. And I, coming from a home without hugs, without validation, was captivated by the first crumb of attention. At that time, I was emotionally fragile. I had just left a family marked by silence, where displays of affection were rare and validation always came with conditions. I grew up hearing that love had to be earned, and maybe that's why, when he started complimenting me, saying I was different, that God had something special for me, my heart opened. I wanted to be chosen. I wanted, for the first time, to feel seen. In the first few months, he was the man of my dreams. He showered me with flowers, messages, prayed with me over the phone, made me feel like the most loved woman in the world. He said he wanted to get married, have kids, that I was the answer to his prayers. He made me feel like I was a gift from God. He planned the future with sweet words, swore fidelity and purity, cried emotionally during worship next to me. And I thought I had finally found my place in the world, by his side. But gradually, the small criticisms began. First about my clothes. That skirt is too short for a woman of God. Then about my friends. That friend of yours doesn't bear good fruit. Eventually, he convinced me to cut off contact with my childhood best friend, all in the name of spirituality. He said he was just trying to protect me, that the devil was cunning and used people around us to divert us from our purpose. I started to distrust everyone. I saw sin in everything, even in the way I smiled at someone. He taught me that being a woman of God meant being submissive, and I, wanting to please God, obeyed. I erased myself, dressed in clothes he chose. I became invisible to myself, but visible to him. Whenever I started to question something, he twisted it all, said I was too sensitive, that I saw evil where there was none. I began to doubt my own perception. If he disappeared for hours and I asked, he'd call me controlling. If I cried, he said I was emotionally unstable. He used my faith against me, said my spirit was contaminated by pride and rebellion. Over time, I drifted away from everyone. My family thought I was in a blessed relationship because on social media, he posted Bible verses and smiling photos of us. But behind the cameras, he made me believe that everyone was a threat to our love. He said I was his precious pearl, and that's why I needed to be protected from the world. But what he really did was imprison me. I discovered betrayals. Many. Always with women from the church. One time, I found a conversation where he scheduled a prayer meeting at 10 p.m. with one of the worship leaders. When I confronted him, he yelled at me, called me carnal, said I didn't understand spiritual mysteries. I knelt down and asked for forgiveness for doubting him. Today I see, he was the one who should have knelt and asked forgiveness for destroying me. He used faith as a weapon, said I was rebellious when I disagreed, made me pray for forgiveness for thinking badly of him. Once, he left me alone at church after a jealous rage because I hugged a brother. He drove off, left me in the parking lot. It was raining. I cried for hours and still apologized when he came back. Another time, he ignored me for 3 days because I posted a photo smiling too much, said a spiritual woman doesn't show off. There were times he disappeared for days, then returned with gifts, praying in tongues, saying God had confronted him. And I believed. I believed because I wanted to believe that love redeems. But what I lived was a cycle of punishment and reward. Each return gave me hope for change. Each relapse taught me I was not enough. Once, after I found out about another betrayal, he cried, knelt down and said, "The problem is that you don't pray enough. If you fasted more, I wouldn't fall into temptation." And once again, the blame fell on me. And I fasted for days, crying, fasting so he would love me for real. The day everything started to change was when I saw him, by chance, at a restaurant with another woman. And worse, she was a leader in the children's ministry. They were holding hands. When he saw me, he showed no guilt. He came over and calmly said, "God told me, my time with you is over." I froze. There, with my heart in pieces, he discarded me like a used object. I screamed, cried, begged, and he just walked away, ignored me as if I had never existed. But that wasn't the end. I went back. I forgave him again, more than once, because he knew how to get me, with guilt. Came back saying God had confronted him, that I was the woman of the promise, that he had gotten lost, but now he was different. And I, broken, wanting him to become the man he pretended, to be at the beginning, accepted. This cycle repeated for 4 years, each time deeper. I didn't even cry anymore. I stayed silent. I became emotionally numb. I started believing I deserved it, that my mission was to love a difficult man, that my cross was to endure. I read the Bible with distorted eyes, saw suffering as a test of faith, and he used that. I grew up as the daughter who wanted to please, who wanted to be seen. At home, love came through performance, good grades, obedience, silence. I never learned to say no. I never understood that I had boundaries. My mother was controlling, my father was absent. Love in my childhood was a currency, and that prepared me to accept abuse as if it were affection. This story with him shattered me, but also exposed old wounds. I realized I was trapped in a pattern, a cycle where I repeated what I had learned, to tolerate the unacceptable in the name of supposed love. My identity was erased. I no longer knew what I liked, what I believed, who I was without him. He controlled everything, from my clothes to the way I worshiped God. He distanced me from my own spirituality. I began to fear God, as if he were that man's accomplice. The relationships that came after were also marked by distrust and fear. I thought love came with pain, and it took me a long time to understand that it's not like that. True love heals. It doesn't confuse. The restart was slow. I started by watching videos like this one. I sought therapy, reconnected with people who truly loved me. It was painful to admit I had been emotionally abused. I started writing, praying, looking at myself in the mirror and saying, "You deserve real love." I had emotional relapses, had days when I wanted to call him, but I resisted. And each time I said no, my identity was reborn a little more. I had to rebuild my faith, separate God from what that man had taught me. And I discovered that the real God doesn't manipulate, doesn't silence, doesn't hurt. He heals, he embraces. And it was this God who held my hand when no one else did. If I could go back in time, I would have believed the first signs. The discomfort I felt when he pulled me away from my friend. Today, I understand that love doesn't hurt. Love doesn't isolate, doesn't manipulate, doesn't make you doubt yourself. If you're living something similar, don't ignore your intuition. Don't minimize what you feel. You're not overreacting, you're surviving. And your pain has a name. Your story has value. Comment below if you've been through something like this. Your story could be another woman's cry for freedom. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Don't stay silent. Don't normalize abuse. If you want, send us your testimony. Your story matters. and you are not alone.